Chapter 43:13. Gong Xiaozhu felt that snatching the medicinal herb which she had her eyes on was considered as winning her. Wasn't that a little too childish? She could say that from the start till the end, the only thing which piqued her interest was only this stalk of 3-dew grass. 1 million. Ren Jianming immediately raised his paddle. As he raised his paddle, he leaned his head over and looked at Yiqing Luo. Eldest young miss, you don't need to save money for me. I don't have many other things, but I have a lot of money. If she wants to snatch it, I will compete with her till the end. His voice wasn't soft at all. Gong Xiaozhu naturally heard all of this. Whereas at this moment, there was someone else who had bid for the 3-dew grass to 8 million crystal stones. Gong Xiaozhu directly raised her paddle. 10 million, 11 million. Ren Jianming hurriedly raised his paddle. Earlier when Yiqing Luo stopped those medicinal herbs, he didn't continue bidding because he could tell that Yiqing Luo didn't have any special feelings towards those medicinal herbs. But earlier, Yiqing Luo had obviously stared at the illusion 3-dew grass for a longer period of time. Moreover, her eyes were filled with curiosity towards the 3-dew grass. Something which the goddess liked. He must get it for his goddess. Gong Xiaozhu pursed her lips tightly. 15 million. Ren Jianming didn't increase the bid as he just raised it by 1 million with Gong Xiaozhu. The others could tell that the undercurrent between the two of them was surging. No one joined in their bidding. Until Gong Xiaozhu shouted out a bid of 25 million. Yiqing Luo raised her hand and pressed Ren Jianming's hand, which was raising his paddle, as she glanced at him indifferently. There's no need to bid. Ren Jianming's eyes were fixated on Yiqing Luo's hand, which was pressing on his arm, as his eyes were filled with agitation. His lips curled into a huge smile. He looked a little silly. The goddess took the initiative to hold his hand. Took the initiative to hold his hand. Hold his hand. Hand. Agitated, he directly raised his other hand and shouted loudly, 26 million. The goddess took the initiative to hold his hand. How could he let the goddess down? Are you silly? Yiqing Luo released his arm as she glanced sideways at Gong Xiaozhu, who was preparing to bid. An indistinct teasing look flashed past her eyes. The corners of his mouth curled up into a sly smile. Without waiting for Ren Jianming to speak, she then said lightly, that piece of broken grass isn't worth this price. Princess Xiaozhu likes to act foolishly, so I'm just cooperating with her. She's a princess of the royal family after all. It's only right for her to do more good deeds. Ren Jianming stared blankly for a moment. His mind quickly turned. You mean to say, you stared at the medicinal herbs on purpose? Otherwise, why would I stop you? Yiqing Luo raised her brows and asked. Ren Jianming slowly put down his hand that was holding the signboard. His face was full of disappointment. It was so hard to please the goddess. Was there really nothing that could catch the eye of the goddess? Their positions were very close to Gong Xiaozhu. Whatever Yiqing Luo said, Gong Xiaozhu naturally heard it all. She stood up in anger. First young miss of the Gu residence, are you playing with me? Yiqing Luo's long and narrow eyes rose as she looked at her lazily. How could it be teasing? Isn't Princess Xiaozhu's purpose of coming here to do good deeds for the development of the heaven realm? Gong Xiaozhu's expression sunk. The crystals that she had used in this auction had already exceeded the amount of crystals that her imperial father had given her. If there weren't enough crystals, she would have to deduct it from her princess residence. Chapter 43:14. If these losses could make Yiqing Luo suffer, she would feel comfortable spending so many crystal stones. But Yiqing Luo had purposely tricked her into bidding for medicinal herbs at a high price. How could she be reconciled to this? They couldn't wait to skin Yiqing Luo alive. You did it on purpose. Gong Xiaozhu was so angry that her whole body was trembling, and her face was hideous. Yiqing Luo couldn't help but burst out laughing. Am I holding a knife to your neck to force you to bid? Gong Xiaozhu was rendered speechless. Princess Xiaozhu. The shopkeeper of the 100 Medicine House cautiously said, if if Princess Xia Zhu still wants to continue bidding, please raise your sign. Princess Xia Zhu's current behavior has affected everyone. Gong Xiaozhu's face sank. Her eyes were like torches as she glared at the manager. The shopkeeper shrunk his neck. To this arrogant and despotic Princess Xia Zhu, the entire old city kept a respectful distance from him. If he could avoid provoking them, he would try his best not to. Yiqing Luo rubbed her chin lazily. Princess Xia Zhu must remember that today, you are representing the royal family. Gong Xiaozhu wanted to cause trouble. Then it could be said that Gong Xiaozhu had received the emperor's decree, which was why she caused trouble in the 100 Medicine House. Gong Xiaozhu naturally did not dare to do so. It was fine for him to be arrogant and willful when he represented his own identity. But the reputation of the royal family was at stake. No matter how much imperial father dotes on her, he will still punish her because of this. Gong Xiaozhu returned to her seat angrily. The shopkeeper cautiously glanced at Gong Xiaozhu, then tentatively said, 26 million crystals going once. After shouting, he paused for a moment. Gong Xiaozhu didn't have much of a reaction. Only his face was steely green as he stared unblinkingly at Yiqing Luo's direction. Only then did he heave a sigh of relief and confirm it a second time. Yiqing Luo turned her head towards Gong Xiaozhu as she gave a smile which didn't look like a smile. Isn't Princess Xiaozhu bidding anymore? This is the herb that I want. Gong Xiaozhu was so angry that her face trembled. I don't want to. These 5 words were practically squeezed out from between the gaps of her teeth, one word at a time. Previously those messy, unknown medicinal herbs were used by Yiqing Luo in this way, to intentionally cheat her to bid for them. How dare he lie to her now? Yiqing Luo gave a regretful sigh as she shifted her gaze away. Upon seeing this, Gong Xiaozhu was even more determined in her thoughts. The third confirmation was the final word. Ren Jianming won the illusionary 3-dew grass with a price of 26 million crystal stones. When the next auction item was brought up, Yiqing Luo slowly got up. Let's go. Ren Jianming was still immersed in the depression of not being able to please the goddess. Then you can continue to stay here. Yiqing Luo didn't even turn her head back. Miss, don't you want to continue looking at the rest of the herbs? There will definitely be something that will interest you. Ren Jianming hurriedly followed. Yiqing Luo's lips curled upwards, the corners of her eyes curved upwards, outlining a seductive poppy. What I want, you have already bought it. What do you mean? Before he could say, West, Ren Jianming seemed to have thought of something. You're talking about that illusion 3-dew grass? Yes. Yiqing Luo nodded with a smile. That's a good thing, you definitely won't lose out. This young master will give it to you. Ren Jianming's face was filled with joy as he immediately took the crystal stones and ran over to exchange for the 3-dew grass which he had bid for. Their conversation was heard clearly by Gong Xiaozhu, who was sitting by the side. Her expression instantly turned steely green. She abruptly stood up and pointed at Yiqing Luo. Her voice was filled with hatred. You. Chapter 43:15. Good. Gong Xiaozhu clenched her teeth tightly, as though this was the only way to maintain her emotions. Her malevolent face was totally unable to adjust. Yiqing Luo smiled like a flower. I'm naturally very well, but Princess Xiaozhu should have suffered a heavy loss today, so she won't be able to recover. Gong Xiaozhu's entire body was trembling slightly, as though her eyes were about to spit out fire. She couldn't suppress the hatred in her heart towards the young lady in front of her. Yiqing Luo didn't care. When she raised her eyes, she saw Ren Jianming carrying the stone box which contained the 3-dew grass, as he walked over excitedly. She walked past Gong Xiaozhu, as she headed towards the entrance of the auction venue. Ren Jianming hurriedly followed up. Not even a corner of his eyes swept towards Gong Xiaozhu. Until the 2 figures disappeared at the entrance. Gong Xiaozhu's body seemed to have lost all her energy, as she sat weakly on the seat. That sinister and twisted face that was covered in the rain was bursting with the most vicious anger. No one dared to look towards Gong Xiaozhu's direction. Among the people present, there was no lack of prominent people. Their actions weren't because they were afraid of Gong Xiaozhu, but trouble. They didn't want to get into this kind of trouble. After walking out of 100 Medicinal House, Ren Jianming followed behind Yi Qing Luo. As he passed the stone box to her, "Eldest miss, this is for you." Yi Qing Luo didn't receive it. After a few steps, she suddenly halted her footsteps. Ren Jianming hurriedly halted his footsteps, as he smiled and leaned in front of her. The man's handsome face was filled with a fawning look, as his eyes started to sparkle. Yi Qing Luo looked at him fixedly for some time. If it wasn't for the fact that her emotions were very mild, and her gaze was also very mild, Ren Jianming might even think that she was beginning to fall for his handsomeness and elegance. But her gaze, apparently, wasn't sinking into it. After staring for a long time, Yi Qing Luo frowned, as she asked calmly, "What do you want to do?" Ren Jianming looked at her blankly, with a puzzled look. "Say, your real motive." Yi Qing Luo didn't beat around the bush. Ren Jianming scratched his head, as though he didn't understand. "My real motive? What motive? If you don't say it, you won't have the chance to say it in future." Yi Qing Luo didn't want to talk nonsense with him as she turned around and left. Ren Jianming's eyes sunk slightly as he speedily shifted towards Yi Qing Luo, blocking her in front. There was no longer the fawning and flattering expression on his face. On his handsome face, his gaze was a little deep. "Are you going to say it?" Yi Qing Luo raised her brows. "How did you find out?" Ren Jianming looked into her eyes with curiosity. "I thought I acted well." "Eyes." Yi Qing Luo tilted her head as her lips curled slightly. "The way you look at me, from the first time you saw me, it's totally different." It was as if he had become another person. When Ren Jianming first met her, the way he looked at her was obviously filled with intense interest, but it was not disgusting. But the second time they met, there was obviously a slight change in him. His eyes were filled with the desire to possess her. Yes, possessive. It was a possessive desire to let her belong to him alone. But there was no love in this possessiveness. After that, Ren Jianming began to pester her, as though he really fell deeply in love with her. He was wholeheartedly thinking of marrying her. So he kept pestering her and followed behind her. Fawning, acting dumb. Yi Qing Luo didn't believe that just a few meetings could make a man be dead set on her, and even change because of her. She didn't believe it. Chapter 43:16. Ren Jianming looked at her silently. After a long time, his chest shook as he laughed out loud. "Ha ha ha. Eldest young miss of the Gu residence, I realize that I'm really liking you more and more." As he said that, his body suddenly got closer to Yi Qing Luo. That handsome face was magnified in Yi Qing Luo's pupils from a close distance. He grinned as his smile was filled with some evilness. Just like that, he got close to her ear as he muttered softly, "This sentence is from my heart." The unfamiliar man's breath seeped into her nostrils. Yi Qing Luo frowned as she speedily took a step back, leaving the encirclement of Ren Jianming's masculine breath. She didn't like her body to be tainted with any man other than a Xian's scent. She couldn't stand any man other than a Xian's scent. Yi Qing Luo's action made Ren Jianming spread his arms wide as he laughed. "Eldest young miss, be my Ren family's mistress. As long as you're willing. In this heaven realm, whatever you want, I can do it for you." The gaze which he stared at Yi Qing Luo was filled with greed towards his prey. This was Ren Jianming's real face. Yi Qing Luo met his overbearing gaze, but there wasn't any emotion on her face. "Then do you know what I want? Gu residence? Ren family? Or Lord of Heaven realm?" Ren Jianming spat out every single word, which was enough to make most cultivators go crazy. His gaze was locked onto Yi Qing Luo's face, not wanting to miss any change in her emotions. But on that young lady's exquisite face, there wasn't any hint of greed or yearning. That pair of eyes, which were as bright as stars, was filled with calmness and indifference. Like nothing could arouse her interest. After Ren Jianming's words landed, the atmosphere froze for a moment. The two of them didn't speak again. After a moment of silence, a young lady's calm voice rang. Before discussing terms with me, second young Master Ren had better investigate clearly what I want. Her pink lips curled slightly, curving into ridicule and disdain. Tightly, she turned around and left. Yiqing Luo had just taken a few steps when Ren Jianming's voice was heard from behind. Eldest young miss, I only want you to help me save someone. As long as you're willing, whatever you want, I can give it to you. Yiqing Luo stopped in her tracks and turned around to look at him. Save people? If even you, second young Master Ren, can't save someone, then I, a good-for-nothing with no Xian energy, can't even save him. Only you can. Ren Jianming's eyes were resolute as he said, if it wasn't for the fact that I had no other choice, I wouldn't have taken the risk to find someone I don't even know. Yiqing Luo raised her brows. The smile on her lips was very casual. I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint you. I'm good at killing people, but I really don't know how to save people. With that, she left without hesitation. Ren Jianming didn't follow them. The Ren family had such a complicated relationship and Yiqing Luo didn't want to be dragged into it to turn into a big drama. She was someone that Ren Jianming wanted to save. Must be a troublesome person. She did not hear Gu Yun use the word save when it came to the Ren family or anyone's situation. However, Ren Jianming would rather look for a stranger like her. He was also unwilling to seek help from the Ren family. TSK. Just the thought of it was troublesome. Yiqing Luo pouted her lips. She didn't want to get involved in this mess. Chapter 43:17. Eldest young miss, why? Is second young Master Ren not around today? Recently, Ren Jianming had been sticking to her eldest young miss's side shamelessly and she couldn't chase him away. Today he actually let eldest young miss come back alone. Could it be that the both of them had a quarrel? Yiqing Luo stretched out her hand and hooked Gu Yun's shoulder as she leaned close to her and gave a naughty smile. Little Gu Yun, you seem to value second young Master Ren very much. Are you disappointed that you didn't see him today? Gu Yun's body stiffened as her face revealed a shocked expression, as her facial features revealed resistance. Eldest young miss, this joke is not funny. How could I possibly value that kind of silk pants? She hurriedly explained, I just felt strange and asked out of curiosity. I absolutely have no improper thoughts towards second young Master Ren. Looking at the lady's anxious and shy look, Yiqing Luo burst out laughing. She pinched Gu Yun's face and said with a smile, I'm just joking. That's second young Master Ren. I've already told him clearly. If there's nothing wrong with his brain, he probably won't bother me anymore. Hence, the next morning, Yiqing Luo finished washing up and followed Gu Yun to the main hall for breakfast. She saw Ren. Something wrong with his brain. Jian Ming. Yiqing Luo, this fellow was really a lingering spirit. What on earth was he trying to do? She seemed to have made it very clear yesterday, right? Still not willing to give up. Master Ren, why are you here again? Gu Yun stood in front of Yiqing Luo, guarding against Ren Jianming's approach like a wolf. Ren Jianming's eyes were burning as he stared at Yiqing Luo, as his eyes were filled with smiles. Eldest young miss is my fiancée, why can't I come to see her? Master Ren, please conduct yourself with dignity. Gu Yun frowned slightly. Master Ren's actions and words have already affected eldest young Mississippi. Ren Jianming's gaze went past Gu Yun and fell onto Yiqing Luo. His smile was the same as the flattery and fawning over the past few days. His eyes were filled with deep affection towards Yiqing Luo. Eldest young miss, where do you want to go today? I'll accompany you. Yiqing Luo lifted her eyes slightly and met Ren Jianming's eyes. She stretched out her hand and placed it on Gu Yun's shoulder. You can leave first. Gu Yun looked at Yiqing Luo worriedly and looked at Ren Jianming vigilantly. Didn't First Mistress say yesterday that young Master Ren wouldn't bother her anymore? Something must have happened between young Master Ren and Eldest Miss for her to say that. But now, young Master Ren was pestering Eldest Miss again. Guyun seriously suspected that young Master Ren wanted to harm young Miss. Don't worry, there's still Gui around. Yiqing Luo knew what Guyun was worried about as she patted her shoulder. This girl that the barbaric Blood-Bone King had arranged for her, his wariness and hostility towards Ren Jiaming were very strong. It was unknown just what Ren Jiaming had done in the Gu residence previously. Guyun hesitated for a moment. Under Yiqing Luo's insistence, he left the house first. Yiqing Luo walked directly to the dining table and sat down, minding her own business as she started to eat her breakfast. He didn't even spare Ren Jiaming a glance. Ren Jiaming followed Yiqing Luo and sat beside her. He originally thought that Yiqing Luo would ask Guyun to leave to have a good talk with him. But after Guyun left, Yiqing Luo seemed as though she couldn't see him at all. Chapter 43:18. Eldest young miss, I hope you can consider my suggestion last night. His tone was somewhat solemn. The expression on his face turned serious in an instant. Yiqing Luo lowered her eyes and looked at the hand on her arm. Second young Master Ren, have you forgotten? Not to touch me casually? Her voice just fell. Ren Jianming's hand suddenly felt like it was pricked by a needle. He retracted his hand abruptly. His entire palm had already turned jet black. The prickling pain of the needle spread through his palm. His hand trembled in pain and his brows knitted tightly. Yiqing Luo continued to eat her breakfast without any change in expression. Eldest young miss, I am serious. Ren Jianming was panting as he spoke. He couldn't help sucking in cold air due to the piercing pain in his palm. But he still looked at Yiqing Luo and continued, you are a pharmacist, only you. Only you can save him. No matter what Ren Jianming said. Yiqing Luo ate her food calmly. Until she was full and put down her chopsticks, she raised her head lightly. Second young Master Ren, I am a pharmacist, but that doesn't mean I can save people. Looking at the entire heaven realm, it's easy to find a high-level pharmacist with your family's power. Yes. I really don't know if you can save him. Ren Jianming lowered his head and pursed his thin lips, but this is the only chance. Ren Jianming suddenly stood up and fixed his eyes on Yiqing Luo. I can't beat the grass and alert the snake. I don't trust anyone in heaven realm, only you. His hands, slowly clenched into fists. One by one, he squeezed tightly. As if he had completely ignored his poisoned right hand. You don't trust the people in heaven realm, but trust an outsider like me? Yiqing Luo snorted lightly. Aren't you afraid that I am the most dangerous person? Afraid. Ren Jianming was very honest, but I want to take a gamble. Betting on you is my only chance. Yiqing Luo's words had just opened her mouth. Only a plop sound was heard. Ren Jianming knelt down heavily. He knelt in front of Yiqing Luo, with an unprecedented serious expression on his face. Eldest young miss, as a sign of sincerity, I can tell you some things that I can tell you. Yiqing Luo stood up, avoiding the direction where Ren Jianming was kneeling. Her expression was still very indifferent. Her gaze on Ren Jianming was so indifferent that no one could tell what she was thinking. Don't tell me I don't want to know. Yiqing Luo waved her hand. It's just an accident that I'm here, and I don't intend to implicate too many complicated things. Ren Jianming did not dare to look for a pharmacist in the heaven realm. He did not dare to spread the news of the person he had saved. That person's identity in the heaven realm must be very complicated. It was also very likely that it involved the entire heaven realm. She still had self-awareness. She knew that with her strength in the heaven realm, she wouldn't be able to make a big splash. Not to mention now, she who had lost her profound energy. That was under the condition of recovering profound strength. She also didn't want to cause any complicated disputes and battles in the heaven realm. It was too troublesome. It was also too dangerous. Yiqing Luo answered very decisively, without any hesitation. Second young Master Ren, you should go back. His footsteps had just stepped over the threshold. Chapter 43:19. This low growl successfully stopped Yi Qing Luo's footsteps. She turned around and looked at Ren Jianming. What do you mean? Half a month later, on the wind cloud list, someone will take action and invade the heaven realm. Ren Jianming was still kneeling on the ground. His voice was filled with suppressed pain. Only by saving that person can heaven be saved. How did you know that there would be a calamity in the heaven realm? Yi Qing Luo's gaze shot straight towards Ren Jianming, containing some sharpness. Ren Jianming pursed his lips. As for the reason, I cannot tell you right now. However, everything I have said is the truth. The heaven realm has been targeted by a mysterious force. The other party will use the opportunity of the wind cloud list to create chaos, for some unknown reason, the moment Ren Jianming mentioned that a mysterious force. Yi Qing Luo's first reaction was to think of 3 words: dark, dark, palace. Only the rats from the dark palace were hiding in the dark, that was why they were always looking for opportunities to create chaos. In the Nirvana realm. It was the same in the land. Now, was the other party eyeing the heaven realm? If the mysterious force that Ren Jianming was talking about was really the Palace of Darkness. This step-by-step operation, the true goal of the Palace of Gloomy Darkness was, to control the 3 realms. How ambitious. No, that's not right. If the power of the secluded Darkness Palace had already infiltrated into the heaven realm. That, with how stubborn the Palace of Gloomy Shadows was towards her. After learning of her existence. The Palace of Gloomy Darkness should have come looking for them. Especially now, when she didn't even have the strength to truss a chicken. However, she had been wandering in the heaven realm for half a month. He did not see any traces of the Dark Abyss Palace. Eldest young miss, even if it's not for the heaven realm, you wouldn't be willing to see the Gu residence fall, right? Seeing Yi Qing Luo not speaking for a long time, Ren Jianming started to play the emotional card. To tell the truth, I really don't care if the bone residence falls or not. Yi Qing Luo crossed her arms as she walked back into the room. She returned to her seat and sat down. Who is the person you want me to save? Why do you say that only by saving that person can the heaven realm be saved? She had to confirm it first. Was that mysterious force on the side of the Dark Palace? Seeing Yi Qing Luo walking back and returning to her seat, Ren Jianming's face revealed an excited smile. But when he heard Yi Qing Luo's question, his smile slowly froze. His expression was somewhat complicated. Yi Qing Luo could tell that he was conflicted. He wanted her to save that man. But subconsciously, he couldn't believe her. Yi Qing Luo wasn't in a hurry to interrogate him. You want me to save someone, but you want me to not even know who I want to save? The expression on Ren Jianming's face changed slightly. He clenched his fists again, struggling internally. After some time, as though he had finally made up his mind, he abruptly raised his head and looked at Yi Qing Luo, saying word by word, I hope that the person you save is Miss Ren. Young Master Ren is here. Suddenly, a servant's voice came from outside. Miss Ren? Yi Qing Luo narrowed her eyes. Ren Jianming. Why was she here? Just as Ren Jianming was guided by the servants, they arrived at the room which Yi Qing Luo was in. Ren Jianming, who was kneeling on the ground, moved, and in a blink of an eye, he sat on the seat opposite Yi Qing Luo. The expression on his face was no longer solemn and serious. But there was a sliver of what he thought to be elegant and suave, an incomparably confident smile. His entire imposing manner became extremely relaxed. Chapter 43:20. Ren Jianming had already walked in. Her gaze fell onto Ren Jianming. Her penetrating gaze swept past Yi Qing Luo and Ren Jianming. As though she was trying to confirm something. Elder sister, why are you here? Ren Jianming stood up as his face was filled with disdain. Ren Jianming slowly walked towards him as her beautiful face revealed a hint of coldness. Jianming, have you caused enough trouble these few days? Ren Jianming pushed away Ren Jianming's hand with a mischievous look and bypassed her. What trouble did I cause? You're the second young master of the Ren family, following behind a woman all day long. Where's your sense of propriety? Ren Jianying intentionally shot a glance towards Yiqing Luo's direction as she spoke. That gaze seemed to be saying that Yiqing Luo was a femme fatale. Ren Jianming's expression sunk instantly. His tall body blocked in front of Yiqing Luo, blocking Ren Jianying's gaze. He revealed an unhappy expression. Elder sister, eldest miss is my fiancée. I like eldest miss, don't always go against her. What fiancé? Nothing has even been decided yet. Ren Jianying sneered and continued in a resentful tone. In the entire old city, there are countless women who want to marry you. Why do you need to be so persistent with a woman who doesn't even put you in her heart? Those people are not eldest Mississippi. Ren Jianying stubbornly raised his chin. I only want eldest miss. You. Ren Jianying was slightly flustered as she flicked her sleeves and retreated away from Ren Jianming. Good. Now I can't control you anymore. Alright, if you want to be with this woman, then don't go back to the Ren family. Elder sister. Ren Jianming was flustered. Since young, you've always liked to control me. Now, even if I like someone, you want to control me too? Ren Jianying's expression was cold as she didn't have any intention of being moved. This woman isn't suitable for you. Either follow me back to the Ren family, or you can live with this woman. I want to see, after losing the identity of the Ren family's second young master, if she will still allow you to pester her. Big sister, why do you have to force me? Ren Jianming was so angry that his whole body was trembling. His face was livid, and his eyes were red. It was as if the emotions that had been suppressed for a long time were on the verge of exploding at this moment. He looked like a rebellious child who was being forced by his elders. Ren Jianying's expression did not change. She looked at Ren Jianming quietly with her beautiful eyes. There seemed to be no room for discussion. Ren Jianming pursed his lips tightly, and his eyes were red. He glared at Ren Jianying with resentment and unwillingness, unwilling to compromise. The siblings seemed to be at loggerheads. No one was willing to be the first to speak and take half a step back. Yiqing Luo's gaze wandered between the two of them for a moment. Her crimson lips curled up slightly. Miss Ren's desire to control her own brother is really strong. Could it be that my joke that day is really true? Miss Ren wants to marry your own brother, so you're doing everything possible to control him so that he only belongs to you? She paused and covered her mouth in surprise. She looked Ren Jianying up and down in shock. I didn't expect Miss Ren to be such a person. You're so scary. Oh, your ghost. Ren Jianying was so infuriated by Yiqing Luo's shocking words that her expression changed. Chapter 43-21. Yiqing Luo's brows rose. Trample. Young Miss Ren, I don't like what you're saying. Yiqing Luo slowly stood up. The red flowing cloud-long dress followed her movements and fluttered like a dancing butterfly's wings. I didn't cheat him of his feelings nor his looks. Eldest Miss Ren, where did you see me trampling on him? As she stood up, his aura started to spread out. When she spoke, her long and narrow eyes were like poppies blooming, emitting a suffocating charm. Ren Jianying's heart tightened. The expression on his face was constantly changing. I gave you a chance. Ren Jianying gritted her teeth. It's you who rejected to be with Jianming. Since you rejected, why not be more straightforward? Yiqing Luo sneered. Don't you know how clingy your brother is? Ren Jianying turned cold. Eldest miss of the Gu family, it's not your turn to interfere in our Ren family's matters. Saying that, she turned around and fixed her gaze on Ren Jianming. Ren Jianming, you're the pride of the Ren family, the future successor of the Ren family. I only ask you one thing. Are you coming back to the Ren family with me? Eldest sister. Ren Jianming's face flushed red. As though the two ladies' conversation had caused all the anger he had suppressed in his heart to burst out. I don't want to be the successor of the Ren family. I don't want to be the pride of the Ren family. If I can't even choose the girl I like as the second young master of the Ren family, then what's the use of this identity? I will let you see my determination. As long as you don't accept eldest miss, I will not return to the Ren family. Ren Jianming's every word sounded like a hysterical roar and a venting of anger. His fists were clenched tightly. The veins on the back of his hands and joints were popping out. Ren Jianming. Ren Jianying didn't expect Ren Jianming to suddenly explode. That exquisite and beautiful face revealed an unbelievable anger. You're going to give up everything in the Ren family for this woman? You forced me to do this. Ren Jianming's chest heaved. Good, good. Ren Jianying seemed to be very angry. Her face was pale, and she pointed at Ren Jianming with a trembling finger. I'd like to see if a woman like you will still want you after losing the protection of the Ren family. Her gaze turned towards Yiqing Luo venomously. Eldest young miss of the Gu residence is really capable. His words fell. She flicked her sleeves and strode towards the door. When she reached the door, she stopped but did not turn around. A sinister voice entered their ears. Ren Jianming, you will regret this. This continued until Ren Jianying's aura completely disappeared from the Bone residence. Ren Jianming, whose emotions were tense, face flushed, and eyes bloodshot, slumped into the chair as if he had collapsed. Yiqing Luo strolled over and raised her slender brows as she looked at him with a smile which didn't look like a smile. Now that you're not the second young master of the Ren family, what are you going to use to convince me to help you? This princess was chased out of the house because of you. Ren Jianming rubbed his face to make his expression revert back to normal. If eldest miss doesn't take me in, then I'll really be a homeless child. Because of me? Chapter 43-22. Ren Jianming grabbed a teacup and poured himself a cup of tea to drink. After moistening his throat, he said, You've seen through me again? It seems like I can't hide anything from you. He straightened his face and placed both hands on the table as he looked at Yiqing Luo solemnly. I indeed want to leave the Ren family. Yiqing Luo used her slender fingers to caress her chin, as though she had seen through everything. Looks like the person you're really guarding against is your eldest sister. Ren Jianming's hedonistic look was obviously intentionally displayed in front of Ren Jianying. Thank you for not exposing me earlier. Ren Jianming took a deep breath. If I go back with her this time, I'm afraid I won't have the chance to leave the Ren family anymore. Yiqing Luo asked, Ren Jianying wants the inheritance rights? She thought back to the news that Gu Yun had mentioned to her about the Ren family. The current Ren family's power holder was actually Ren Jianying. Obviously, there was a talented successor like Ren Jianming around. But the power holder was still Ren Jianying. What are you afraid of? Yiqing Luo asked again. This was the only explanation. If it wasn't for fear. Based on Ren Jianming's reputation and the legitimate Ren family's bloodline, it shouldn't be Ren Jianying's turn to make the decision. But Ren Jianming had to pretend to be a hedonistic in front of Ren Jianying and had no interest in power, only wanting to lead a befuddled life, wandering around. This was obviously to hide from Ren Jianying. Hearing Yiqing Luo's question, Ren Jianming lowered his head and didn't reply. The expression on his face was unprecedentedly grave and solemn. In his heart, he was in a dilemma, hesitating whether to tell Yiqing Luo everything. After a long time, his fingers clenched tightly. That hand which was dyed black from the poison also felt a sharp pain because of this action. He pursed his lips and tightened his grip, as though he had made the final decision. He raised his head and looked at Yiqing Luo without blinking. Yes, I'm afraid of her. Do you still remember what I said earlier? There will be a huge calamity in the heaven realm in half a month's time? The expression on Yiqing Luo's face was filled with a deep sense of ridicule. Surely you're not saying that. This matter has something to do with Ren Jianying? Yes. Ren Jianming was already used to Yiqing Luo's ability to see through one's heart. He continued, I've been by your side all this time, which has aroused her suspicions. Just now, she came to test me. Of course, there's another motive. It's almost time for the excellence list. She wants to trap me in the Ren family to prevent me from disrupting her plans. Yiqing Luo's fingers touched her chin. The mysterious force you mentioned. Is it your eldest sister? No. Ren Jianming looked up. Big sister has cooperated with that mysterious force. Their goal is to rebuild a realm that belongs to her, Enchanting, after destroying Heaven Realm. She wanted to become the one and only ruler of the Heaven Realm. How did you know? I accidentally overheard it. If that mysterious force is really as powerful as you said and can destroy Heaven Realm, how could you not detect it when you were eavesdropping? Yiqing Luo expressed her doubts. Ren Jianming's face turned slightly red. At that time, Big sister was in the room with that force's representative, doing that kind of thing, so she didn't notice me. Looking at Ren Jianming's expression, she knew. Chapter 43-23. Yiqing Luo connected everything that Ren Jianming said into a line. She crossed her arms and leaned back against the table, tilting her head to look at him. How do you prove what you said? Ren Jianming suddenly raised his head and coincidentally met with the young lady's smiling eyes. His heart inexplicably skipped a beat. When he opened his mouth to speak, his voice unconsciously stuttered. What I said is all true. I now want to beg you, don't dare to lie. Yiqing Luo slowly lowered her body. Somewhat condescending aura. Ren Jianming only felt his heart getting more and more nervous. In his eyes, the young girl's alluring and beautiful face was reflected. All of a sudden, he seemed to be startled. He stood up abruptly, avoiding eye contact with Yiqing Luo. He held the back of the chair and quickly turned around, with his back facing Yiqing Luo. Since I was 5 years old, I discovered that eldest sister is very strange. Yiqing Luo pulled a chair over and sat down. I was 5 years old, she was only 7 years old. But she seemed to know a lot of things that even father didn't know. In front of the elders, she appeared to be very obedient, but behind the scenes, she was using another identity, secretly developing her own power. She seemed to be a natural-born businesswoman, able to grasp any business opportunities, like she could predict the future. In just a few years, she had already controlled the entire old city, and even half of the main city's trade routes in Heaven Realm. Then, when she was 14 years old, she stretched her hands to the Ren family. She was able to accurately know the internal affairs of the various large families, and took precautions in advance. She also knew the secrets of the Ren family's various elders, and could accurately catch all those who had ill intentions towards the Ren family. Step by step, she controlled the Ren family's lifeline, and became the person behind the Ren family. Now, her target has already set the entire Heaven Realm. Speaking of this, Ren Jianming's body trembled slightly. The fingers on the back of the chair almost scratched the back of the chair. He suddenly turned around, a trace of madness flashed in his eyes. Eldest miss, do you think my eldest sister has the ability to predict the future? Only with foresight could Ren Jianming advance step by step and reach her current position. Otherwise, Ren Jianming wouldn't be able to understand. How on earth did Ren Jianming manage to take the most appropriate precautions every time an incident happened? Foresight? I'm afraid not. Yiqing Luo touched her pink lips with interest. What is that? Ren Jianming asked anxiously. Yiqing Luo didn't reply, but instead her lips curled into an arc as she retorted with a question. When did you start to conceal your true thoughts? From when I was 8 years old. Ren Jianming's eyes darkened. I saw with my own eyes, when she was only 10 years old, she killed her uncle because he rejected her proposal. Children of their birth. Compared to other children, he matured much earlier. From a young age, they would accept the lifestyle of a large family. From then on, Ren Jianming knew it. He was extremely talented. He was appointed as the successor of the Ren family. One day, he would become a stepping stone for his elder sister. Therefore, he began to learn how to disguise himself. He began to befriend a bunch of scoundrels and turned himself into a man of luxury. Chapter 43-24. He had successfully molded himself into a hedonistic son of a rich family, and successfully numbed Ren Jianming. From then onwards, Ren Jianning's attitude towards him was obviously different. Ren Jianning no longer looked at him coldly. It was no longer directed at him. But she really treated him like a younger brother and doted on him. But this kind of doting was established in another way. Ren Jianning was using her own way to condone his misdeeds. Suppressing all the protesting voices in the family. She allowed him to completely ruin her reputation. Then as a good sister, she came forward to clean up the mess. Later on, the entire old city knew about it. There was a little overlord in the Ren family. A genius overlord. Except for those scoundrel friends of his. Everyone who saw his appearance would avoid him with a headache, not willing to have any interaction with him. Speaking of this, Ren Jianming's body started to tremble slightly. He shut his eyes tightly, suppressing all the emotions in his heart. Finally, he opened his eyes and looked at Yiqing Luo with a resolute gaze. Eldest miss, I really hope you can help me, help the Ren family, help Heaven Realm. Yiqing Luo turned her head, her expression was indifferent. I don't have that ability. Save him. As long as he wakes up, he will definitely be able to control eldest sister. Ren Jianming clenched his fists tightly, his tone was filled with unwavering determination. If you really can't save him. It's alright, at least we have tried. I will consider it. Yiqing Luo straightened her body and smiled slightly. Since you have left the Ren family, then stay in the Gu residence. Ren Jianming's eyes suddenly lit up. Let him stay. Did that mean that she had already relented? She would help? He couldn't hide the excitement on his face. His eyes were fixated on the young lady's gorgeous face, looking at the smile on the young lady's lips. His lips uncontrollably curled upwards. He hadn't had time to express his gratitude and touched. Yiqing Luo looked at the door and raised her voice. Gu Yun. Gu Yun quickly walked in. When she saw Ren Jianming, she stared at him in disgust. Arrange a guest room for second young master Ren. He will be staying here for a period of time. Yiqing Luo instructed. Gu Yunmiao was stunned and her eyes widened. Eldest miss, you let this hedonistic son live in the Gu residence? Didn't first mistress say yesterday that she had made things clear with second young master Ren and that they would never see each other again? Today, it had developed into, were they going to live together? The first miss actually agreed to live under the same roof as the playboy? Was eldest miss deceived? Countless thoughts flashed through Gu Yun's mind. Yiqing Luo poked her head. What nonsense are you thinking about? I was just being kind, seeing that he was homeless. I took him in for a few days. Gu Yun looked at Ren Jianming with a vigilant expression. Eldest miss, that kind of hedonistic playboy is the most scheming. Don't be fooled by him. Yiqing Luo seemed to have smelled something important as a trace of ridicule surfaced in her eyes. She suddenly stretched out her hand and circled it around Gu Yun's neck. She lowered her voice and moved closer to Gu Yun's ear as she laughed softly. Little Yun, don't tell me. You've been cheated by him? Gu Yun's face flushed red in an instant. I didn't. How could I possibly be cheated by a hedonistic playboy? I'm worried about you. His negative tone sounded like he was full of energy. But that flushed red face. Chapter 43-25. No wonder every time Gu Yun saw Ren Jianming, she would have that expression. Alright, be good. Now he needs my help, he won't dare to lie to you. Yiqing Luo rubbed Gu Yun's head. Gu Yun pursed her lips and stared fiercely at Ren Jianming. Let's go, I'll bring you over. Ren Jianming didn't hear the whispers between the two. Hearing Gu Yun's shout, he then reacted. He hurriedly walked to Gu Yun's side. Just as he was about to leave with Gu Yun, he suddenly stopped in his tracks and looked at Yiqing Luo solemnly. Eldest young miss, thank you. Yiqing Luo curled her lips at him as she casually waved her hand. Ren Jianming wanted to say something but Gu Yun tugged at him. Are you leaving or not? Ren Jianming touched his nose as he leaned forward and put his head in front of Gu Yun. I say little lass, why are you so hostile towards me? Gu Yun was startled by the sudden appearance of a head and took 2 steps back. After her gaze fell onto Ren Jianming's face, her eyes flickered for a moment. Immediately, she pursed her lips. I don't dare. How don't you dare? I think you're very daring. Ren Jianming didn't have the intention to let her off as he followed behind her and asked, how did I provoke you? Quickly tell me. Their voices gradually got further away. Yiqing Luo leaned against the table and stood for a while before walking out of the main door. Her mind kept repeating those words that Ren Jianming said. Everything was strung together towards Ren Jianming's words. She already believed half of it. After all, Ren Jianming had no need to lie to her about such things. That person that Ren Jianming mentioned, the only person who could stop Ren Jianying, the person who needed her to save, who was it? She was getting more and more curious. You really want to agree to help him? Qi Yan drilled in from the window, fluttered his wings and landed into Yiqing Luo's arms. Yiqing Luo lowered her head and met Qi Yan's eyes. You don't want me to help him? This sacred beast doesn't like him at all. Qi Yan snorted, the way he looks at you is extremely disgusting. Speaking of this. Red Flame seemed a little awkward. His little body squirmed a few times in her arms. Only then did he raise his chin up high. With an arrogant look, he said, as one of the 4 great heavenly clans of the Heaven Realm, the Ren clan is too complicated. If you were to interfere, you would definitely not be able to leave in a short period of time. Furthermore, you would attract a lot of trouble. After saying that, he probably felt that his words seemed to be overly worried about Yiqing Luo. He then added, this holy beast is not concerned about you. This holy beast only feels that you're a good-for-nothing now. If you cause a lot of trouble, in the end, I'll be the one to clean up the mess. Listening to the little fellow's tsundere words, Yiqing Luo couldn't help but laughed as her slender fingers tapped on its little head. I might not agree to help him. I need to ascertain if that mysterious powerhouse, the powerhouse which Ren Jianying is working with, is related to the secluded palace. Qi Yan's red eyes turned. Then, what if it's really related to the Palace of Darkness? Yiqing Luo pondered for a moment. Then we can only choose to intervene. Of course, I have to destroy the Palace of Darkness. Most importantly, if the other party was really the Palace of Darkness, the other party might not let her off so easily. Chapter 43-26. Hey. Qi Yan stared at her. Do you know what you're saying or not? Based on your current situation, you'll die before you even reach secluded palace. Yiqing Luo propped Qi Yan up and placed him next to her as she smiled. Are you concerned about me? Qi Yan's little wings moved as his little head turned unconsciously, not looking into Yiqing Luo's eyes. Following that, he gave an imposing harumph. This sacred beast doesn't care about you. This sacred beast is only worried that you're dead. This sacred beast has even signed a contract with you. Looking at this little fellow's stubborn look, the smile in Yiqing Luo's eyes deepened. She rubbed Qi Yan's head hard. Don't worry, I'm not an idiot. Why would I risk my life? She put down Qi Yan and the expression on her face became extremely gentle. I'm no longer alone. I'm shouldering so many people's hopes, how could I possibly let myself fall? She still needed to return to Ah Xian's side alive. She still needed to live and reunite with her brothers in the world group. How could she bear to mess around? Qi Yan stared blankly at Yiqing Luo's gentle face as his red eyes blinked. After some time, he turned his head away arrogantly as he gave a soft harumph. You know your limits. This sacred beast doesn't want Master to die so quickly. Yiqing Luo. Couldn't he say something more auspicious? The following days, Ren Jianming stayed in the Gu residence without any psychological burden. Moreover, he stayed in a natural and casual manner. And Ren Jianming wanted to put on a good show, plus he pestered Yiqing Luo to agree to his request. Ren Jianming seemed to be sticking to Yiqing Luo's side except at night. Initially, Gu Yi sensed that there were Ren family spies circling around the Gu residence. Yiqing Luo made Gu Yi pretend not to have discovered anything. Ren family spies observed for 2 days. They saw Renjiaming sticking to Yi Qing Luo all the time, going in and out together. He was thrown out of the courtyard by Yi Qing Luo several times. Those spies then retreated. But Renjiaming didn't let his guard down because of this. Because the enemy he was facing wasn't anyone else. Instead, it was his only elder sister, who shared the same father and mother, the closest bloodline to him, and who had the ability to foresee. Lin quibble. Yi Qing Luo had asked Gu Yun to secretly investigate some of the Ren family's secrets. He was also investigating whether or not there was any aura from the Dark Nether Palace in the old city. As long as the Palace of Gloomy Darkness came, there would definitely be some clues left behind. Just like that, another 3 days passed. There were only 10 days left before the opening of the Excellence list. Renjiaming became more anxious. The closer it was to the ranking list, this meant that danger was about to descend. He increased the speed, urging Yi Qing Luo to save him. After being harassed for an entire day, Yi Qing Luo's ears were about to grow calluses, so she directly asked Gu Yi to throw him out. The second time, Yi Qing Luo really didn't see Renjiaming at all. After being pestered for several days, Yi Qing Luo was still not used to it. Until she finished her breakfast. Renjiaming was nowhere to be seen. When did Renjiaming become so obedient? Did he change his personality? With Renjiaming's personality, he wouldn't listen so easily, right? Yi Qing Luo suddenly thought of something as her expression congealed. She suddenly stood up. Gu Yun, why didn't Renjiaming come over today? Chapter 43-27. He left the residence in a hurry early in the morning. When I asked him where he was going, he didn't say. Gu Yun continued. Left the residence in a hurry? Yi Qing Luo's eyes narrowed as a deep meaning flashed past her eyes. I'm going out for a while. Eldest young miss, are you going to look for Master Ren? Gu Yun frowned. I know, I shouldn't interfere with Master's thoughts, but I still have to say, the Ren family's relationship is too complicated. Now that Bone Lord is not in the residence, we shouldn't have any conflict with the Ren family. She paused as her hands clenched tightly. Eldest young miss, I'm worried. Worried that you and Master Ren are too close, and met with the Ren family. Gu Yun had been helping her to investigate the Ren family's matters recently. Towards Renjiaming's ambition. She naturally could tell. Renjiaming wanted the Ren family. The biggest thorn in her side was Renjiaming. Renjiaming would definitely deal with Renjiaming. Yi Qing Luo patted Gu Yun's shoulder. I know what you mean, don't worry. I assure you, Renjiaming currently absolutely won't dare to touch me. If Renjiaming wanted to start a war during the ranking list, she would absolutely not cause any trouble at this juncture. If she really touched her, that would be touching the Gu residence. The Gu residence naturally wouldn't let the Ren family off so easily. How would Renjiaming allow such a thing to happen? Eldest young miss. Gu Yun was very clear that she couldn't persuade eldest young miss as she helplessly sighed, then bring a few more secret guards to protect you in the dark. Gu Yi is enough. Yi Qing Luo shook her head. After walking out of the Gu residence, Yi Qing Luo's first goal was to head towards the Ren family. To make Renjiaming leave the Gu residence in a hurry early in the morning. Only the Ren family's matters could make him like this. Renjiaming might have returned to the Ren family. Before she could confirm whether Renjiaming's collaboration was with the secluded Darkness Palace. This Renjiaming couldn't be allowed to return to the Ren family. Just as she walked to the small alley near the Ren family, she heard a fighting sound coming from the small alley. Bang, bang, bang. The sounds of collisions were extremely clear in this alley. Yi Qing Luo took a look. At the end of the alley, about a dozen people formed a circle and were punching and kicking the person on the ground. These people did not release any profound strength. It was a real hand-to-hand fight. No, it should be called a real beating. Because the people who were trapped on the ground couldn't resist at all. Yi Qing Luo only took a glance. He walked straight into the alley. Ha ha ha, aren't you the high and mighty second young master of the Ren family? Why are you so cowardly? Stand up. Aren't you usually very arrogant? Didn't you step on me and say that I'm just a piece of trash who licks your shoes? What? Now you want to lick my shoes? Second young master of the Ren clan. How can the dignified second young master of the Ren clan be so pitiful? Ha 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 ha. Second young master Ren, who has been chased out of the Ren clan, what else can he do? Their arrogant words were full of ridicule. While laughing and scolding, he also used his legs to kick and hit hard. Ren family. Second young master. Ren Jianming. Those people scolding successfully stopped Yi Qing Luo's footsteps. She stopped beside the 10 over people and looked at the person who was surrounded in the middle. Little beauty, what are you looking at? Don't be a busybody. If you hurt your pretty little face, the few of us will feel heartache. Chapter 43:28. The man who was surrounded by 10 over people suddenly stood up and knocked against those people with force. The person you want to target is me. Don't implicate the innocent. Those 10 over people were knocked back a few steps. The few of them held on to the places where they were knocked as the expressions on their faces turned extremely sinister. One of them strode over and grabbed that man's collar as he gave a heavy punch on that man's abdomen. Second young master Ren, who do you think you are now? You can't even take care of yourself and you still want to take care of others? Innocent? Second young master Ren also knows how to use the word innocent. How did you treat us in the past? When you broke both my legs, didn't you think that I'm not innocent? Ha ha ha. Kneel on the ground like a dog and beg me to spare you, spare this innocent person. Ha 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 ha. Ha ha ha. The group of people behind followed closely and rushed forward. They waved their fists and used their feet to kick. Earlier, when that man knocked against the crowd, it also allowed Yi Qing Luo to clearly see the appearance of that man who was surrounded by 10 over people. Second young master Ren. Ren Jianming. It was indeed him. Why was he surrounded and beaten up by such a group of people at the Ren family's doorstep? Based on Ren Jianming's ability. Even if he was no longer the Ren family's second young master, it shouldn't be a problem for him to deal with these people. Seeing those 10 over people, their fists and feet were all aimed towards Ren Jianming. Yi Qing Luo patted the little fellow in her arms lightly. Go. Qi Yan flapped its wings as it shook its head hard, unwilling to go forward. Yi Qing Luo poked its head. Be good, listen to me. At the same time, Ren Jianming was punched and kicked by the 10 over men in front of him. The man standing right in front raised his leg and stepped on Ren Jianming's chest. Yi Qing Luo's eyes sunk as she speedily threw the Qi Yan in her hands towards the crowd. A ball of blazing red flashed past their eyes. The few of them didn't have time to react. Their bodies were flipped over by a huge force. A strong aura enveloped the surroundings. They fell heavily onto the ground. Those who were flipped over one after another crashed into each other. The piercingly cold air waves were like surging tides. More than a dozen people screamed and struggled to get up from the ground. Who are you? How dare you meddle in other people's business? More than a dozen people howled in pain as they glared angrily ahead. But just now, they saw that the beautiful girl who looked gentle like water, who did not have the slightest fluctuation of profound energy on her body, was looking at them with a smile. It's you, bitch. Bitch, you actually dare to attack us? Do you know who we are? Go. I'll deal with this bitch first. The anger of more than a dozen people rose slowly. Each and every one of them clenched their fists and released a powerful profound wave pressure. However, when they pounced ferociously towards Yi Qing Luo. However, it was blocked by a transparent barrier. It was like a sudden wave of qi had blocked all of their attacks. Before he even got close to Yi Qing Luo, the powerful aura sent them flying again. Bang, bang, bang. The cries of pain and the sounds of collisions echoed in the alley. Large patches of red were reflected in the eyes of more than a dozen people. The entire alley had turned into a sea of fire. As though a fire dragon had opened its bloody mouth, spitting out large patches of flames, burning everything in the surroundings. More than a dozen people cried out in terror. Chapter 43:29. But like a fire dragon's flame, it bared its fangs and brandished its claws, as it covered the entire alley. There was nowhere for them to escape. The scorching flame was burning their skin. Obviously, the flame was burning on them. But it didn't burn their clothes or hair. Only that scorching heat enveloped them, like steaming buns, making their breathing became more and more difficult. While the fire dragon was surging, the 10 over people only saw a slender figure, as she slowly walked over. The young lady's blazing red dress blended with the flame, like a blooming poppy, releasing a fatal temptation. The young lady slowly walked in front of Ren Jianming, following her footsteps. The flame automatically opened up a path. She bent over slightly, as she stretched out a hand towards Ren Jianming. "Can you still stand up?" The man lying on the ground, covered in blood, opened his eyes in a hazy state. When he met that young lady's face, he grinned. "It's you. Why are you here?" Under the flame, that man's face was extremely pale, stained with turbid blood and dirt. Yi Qing Luo patiently said, "If you don't wish to get up, then I won't help you up." Saying that, she was about to withdraw her hand. "Up, up, up." Ren Jianming immediately got up, as he wanted to grab that hand. But the moment he moved, the wounds on his body dragged him, as he couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. His body uncontrollably fell backwards. Yi Qing Luo impatiently pursed her lips. At the moment when the man fell, one hand grabbed his arm, as she forcefully pulled him up. "Really useless. I also feel that. I'm really useless." Ren Jianming's body swayed, as his lips twitched with a bitter smile. The smile on his face looked even uglier than crying. "Return to the Bone residence." Yi Qing Luo rolled her eyes at him, as she pulled him away. Behind her, those 10 over people's pleading voices were heard. "Female hero. Female hero, please spare us. We're going to be burned to death. Sir, you're magnanimous, please spare us, this fire. Save us, save us. We're only following orders, sorry female hero, sorry second young master Ren." 10 over people, in this raging fire, didn't even have the energy to escape. Yi Qing Luo halted her footsteps, as she turned her head to look at those few people who were struggling in the fire. "Following orders? Whose orders?" "The eldest daughter of the Ren family, it's the eldest daughter." Those people hurriedly replied, "Eldest mistress wants to force second young master Ren to return to the Ren family, so she wants us to teach second young master Ren a lesson." "Oh?" Yi Qing Luo's pink lips curled slightly. "It's Ren Jianming. I understand now." With that, she turned around and left. "We answered your questions, so you let us go." "Let us go." The dozen or so people panicked. The feeling of being burned by fire was really unpleasant. Yi Qing Luo laughed lightly. Her laughter was pleasing to the ear. "What a pity. Since you've touched the person I'm looking for, you'll have to pay the price." She didn't even turn around. His footsteps did not slow down at all. He let the screams of the people behind him gradually fade into nothingness. A palm-sized red bird scuttled out from the flames and chased after Yi Qing Luo. He couldn't help cursing, "Bitch! How dare you treat this sacred beast like this? This sacred beast will never help you again." The flames were still burning. The dozen or so people in the flames had already lost all signs of life. Chapter 43:30. Indistinctly, 2 figures appeared on top of the wall. One of them was shrouded in a black cloak, revealing only a pair of sinister and treacherous eyes. One of them had an exquisite and beautiful face, with a dignified and steady look between her brows. Miss Ren. Looks like your plan has deviated. The black cloak man's voice was extremely piercing, as though he had intentionally used profound energy to change his voice. The lady, who was Ren Jianying, had a solemn and cold expression. Her pair of solemn beautiful eyes stared straight at the direction where Yiqing Luo and Ren Jianming had left, as she gave a cold laugh in a lukewarm tone. I said before, I will make him beg me willingly to return to the Ren family. The black cloak man laughed sarcastically. The higher-ups want me to remind you, that woman has interfered, so many of your plans had better be readjusted, otherwise you might not even know how you lost. Is it that magical? Ren Jianying's face was filled with disdain, as her eyes were filled with complacency and pride. The higher-ups, would they be afraid of a waste with no profound energy at all? Don't belittle her. The black cloak man hugged Ren Jianying's petite body. That pair of sinister eyes seemed to be dipped in poison, making one feel cold. I'm just reminding you on account of our relationship, that woman is not easy to deal with. You'd better not belittle your own enemy. Ren Jianying, who was suddenly hugged, didn't have any change on her face. Instead, she leaned her petite body into the black cloak man's embrace. Then one hand encircled that person's neck, slightly tilting her eyes. That beautiful face revealed a seductive look. Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. Once I've decided on something, no one can change it. No matter who it is. As she spoke, she slowly moved her fragrant lips towards his. The black cloak man suddenly locked her waist tightly, as he bent down and pressed the lady into his arms. Yiqing Luo dragged Ren Jianming, as they left the Ren family's boundary. On the streets, there were people coming and going. Ren Jianming's disheveled state made everyone cast their gazes over. Basically, the entire city's people, from 80 old people to 3-year-old children, were extremely familiar with Ren Jianming's looks. Suddenly seeing Ren Jianming in such a sorry state, it was as if he had been beaten up. Everyone couldn't help but speculate. Especially when he saw Yiqing Luo's extremely rough action of dragging Ren Jianming. One by one, the gazes which they shot towards Yiqing Luo were filled with different probing expressions. Could it be that the first miss of the Gu residence had beaten up second young master Ren? Otherwise, with the abilities of the Ren family's second young master, who else could do this to him? It could only be the first miss of the Gu residence that the Ren family's second young master was chasing after, right? However, isn't eldest young miss a little too heavy-handed? Ren Jianming suddenly covered his face and wailed, this young master's reputation of a lifetime, a reputation of a lifetime. All destroyed. Yiqing Luo felt uncomfortable being stared at by everyone. He heard Ren Jianming's voice again. He slapped him on the head. You still have the face to howl? Serves you right. Ren Jianming cried out exaggeratedly, I'm already in such a miserable state, and you still want to lay your hands on me. Don't you have any sympathy? Serves you right. Yiqing Luo gave a cold harumph. Confess yourself, or do I torture you to extort a confession? Think about it carefully. Chapter 43-31. He remained silent for some time. He then pursed his lips tightly. Anyway, sooner or later you will find out. I don't intend to hide it from you. Ren Jianming patted Yiqing Luo's hand. Yiqing Luo moved her hand away. He tidied up his messy robe which was stained with blood. That face which was full of scars and dirt looked grave. He was about to open his mouth. Suddenly, a basin of water poured down from above. Yiqing Luo's reaction was swift as she raised both her hands and pushed Ren Jianming. She followed suit and evaded it. But that basin of water was still mostly poured onto Ren Jianming. The smell of the water carried a nauseating stench. It mixed with the blood on Ren Jianming's body. Sorry second young master, we didn't do it on purpose. Two heads popped out from the second floor window. They looked like 17 to 18-year-old youngsters. One of them was carrying a wooden bucket. Looking at the disheveled Ren Jianming, they laughed loudly. The verbal apology didn't sound sincere at all. Instead it seemed to be mocking something. Ren Jianming raised his head as his eyes stared at the two of them. The two of them laughed arrogantly. Second young master is angry? If you're angry, then come and hit us to vent your anger. As the two of them spoke, they suddenly threw the wooden buckets onto Ren Jianming. Following that, they leapt down from above. The wooden buckets landed. Ren Jianming clenched his fists as he punched the two wooden buckets. But the wooden buckets crashed heavily onto Ren Jianming, causing Ren Jianming to fall onto the ground in a disheveled state. Ha ha ha. Look at you now, like a drowning dog. Second young master, how can you be in such a disheveled state? Quickly stand up, just like in the past. If you're unhappy, you'll take action on us. The two of them laughed so hard that they couldn't stand straight, their faces filled with ridicule. Ren Jianming fell onto the ground, his entire body tensed up. That tightly clenched fist, all the veins popped out. He didn't say a word. The two of them laughed till there was no meaning in it. They strode towards Ren Jianming. Raising their feet, they kicked towards Ren Jianming. Wait. The girl's clear and cold voice revealed an irresistible sense of oppression. A fiery red figure was already standing in front of Ren Jianming. It also blocked the actions of the two youths. After the two youths saw who it was, the arrogance on their faces retracted slightly. Isn't this the first young miss of the Gu clan? I've heard that the first young miss of the Gu estate has always been pestered by second young master Ren, wishing that she could kick him out of the Gu estate. Why is she pleading for second young master Ren now? Ha ha ha, could it be that, after being pestered by second young master Ren, eldest young mistress has fallen for him? The tone of the two men was extremely vulgar. The gaze he shot towards Yiqing Luo was filled with a sense of lasciviousness. Yiqing Luo's long and narrow eyes narrowed slightly. Who are you? Her tone was very calm. But if one looked closely, one could see that in the depths of the girl's half-squinted eyes, there was an extremely faint chill. The two youths exchanged glances and looked at Ren Jianming, who was lying on the ground behind Yiqing Luo. They had no intention to conceal their identities. I'm Zhao family's third son, Zhao Quan, once. I can be considered as second young master Ren's follower. I'm Li family's fourth son, Li Zhongtian, and second young master Ren's follower in the past. Zhao and Li family? Yiqing Luo recalled that the Zhao and Li family's representatives had gone over to the Gu estate, insisting that she give an explanation for that day when Princess Xia Zhu's battle pet Xiong Badian had crushed the Zhao and Li cultivators to death. Chapter 43-32. She curled her lips and glanced at Ren Jianming with her long and narrow eyes. Then, she looked at them with a faint smile. So, you two little sidekicks are planning to become the master now? The young masters of the Zhao and Li families looked at each other, and their expressions changed slightly. First miss, the Ren family's second young master has already been removed from the Ren family, and his profound strength has been crippled, turning him into a cripple. Such a man isn't good enough for eldest miss. Zhao Quan glanced at Ren Jianming. Even if you really like second young master Ren, I'm afraid Bone Lord won't agree to hand you over to a good-for-nothing. As expected, no wonder the second young master of the Ren clan had become a rat that everyone wanted to beat up. One by one, they found fault with him. If it wasn't arranged, she didn't believe it. Ren Jianming was really ruthless. Given the shameless things that Ren Jianming had done in the past, as long as he was no longer the second young master of the Ren family, Ren Jianming would definitely be punished. Those who had been hurt by Ren Jianming would definitely come to seek revenge. Especially, Ren Jianming even crippled Ren Jianming. The genius of the past had directly fallen to become trash. Wasn't this clearly letting Ren Jianming lie flat and be trampled upon? Once a woman became ruthless. It was truly terrifying. Yiqing Luo clicked her tongue as she glanced sideways at Ren Jianming, who was lying on the ground. How long more do you intend to lie there for? Ren Jianming did not reply. His eyes were empty and his expression was very indifferent. Yiqing Luo raised her leg and kicked him mercilessly. Why? Just because everyone thinks you're trash, do you really think you're trash? That kick was merciless. Ren Jianming grunted, but still didn't move. Yi Qing Luo's slender brows rose slightly as she moved her feet to the other side. Since you want to be a waste, then go ahead. Your life and death has nothing to do with me. With that, she turned around to leave. I didn't. Just as she turned around, Ren Jianming's hoarse voice rang out. He propped himself up and slowly climbed up from the ground. He was trembling, and his battered and exhausted face was filled with pain. If you don't, then stand up. Don't be a coward. Yi Qing Luo rolled her eyes at him. It's not like it's some insurmountable hurdle. Since this is your own choice, then stand upright and upright. Do you want to admit defeat now? Since that's the case, why don't you go back to the Ren family and be the second young master Ren? Isn't that better? Ren Jianming's body tensed up. He clenched his fists tightly. He gritted his teeth and forced himself to stand up. His body swayed as he walked towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. Eldest miss. Zhao Quan suddenly opened his mouth, his expression clouded over for a moment. If eldest miss insists on not listening to our advice, then don't blame us for not knowing how to be tender to the fairer sex. Saying that, Zhao Quan and Li Zhongtian slowly walked towards Yi Qing Luo. His steps were swift and fierce, and his expression was extremely gloomy. Yi Qing Luo's pink lips curled up frivolously as she looked at the both of them with a smile. I'm afraid the both of you still don't know my character. The person I want, no one can even think of snatching him from me. Her gaze slowly fell onto Ren Jianming. What a coincidence, this lad is still of some use to me. Ren Jianming's pupils suddenly constricted. He stared blankly at Yi Qing Luo's pair of smiling yet not smiling eyes. The young lady's words, in his ears, was like the most pleasant voice in the world. Chapter 43-33. His heart was beating wildly uncontrollably, as though it was going to jump out from his throat. This kind of unfamiliar feeling made Ren Jianming himself a little unused to it. He took a deep breath and steadied himself. He took another determined step towards Yi Qing Luo. But then I'll have to offend you. Young Master Zhao and young Master Li sneered. Then, they moved and shot out their dark force. Not knowing when. Two long swords appeared in their hands as they directly slashed towards Yi Qing Luo's face. Their actions were extremely swift and violent. They were certain that Yi Qing Luo had no profound energy and was unable to avoid their attacks. Zhao Quan and Li Zhongtian. Ren Jianming's eyes widened as he screamed their names. Whoever dares to touch her, I want you to pay with your life. Just you? Zhao Quan snorted in disdain. The long sword in the book waved out a sword wave, majestic and thick. That was totally taking her life. Ren Jianming swiftly pounced forward, trying to help Yi Qing Luo to block this move. But his current body speed was not comparable to an ordinary person. He heard a few bam 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 exploding sounds. The strong profound wave set off thousands of huge waves. Layers and layers of it lingered in the sky. It also enveloped everything in front. Ren Jianming's heart seemed to be pierced by something fiercely. Even his breathing seemed to have stopped. No. Impossible. Eldest young miss was such a powerful person. She could even block Princess Xia Zhu's attack. How could she be defeated by trash like Zhao Quan and Li Zhongtian so easily? The Zhao and Li young masters are really daring, even daring to kill eldest young miss of the Gu residence. If Bone Lord returns, will these young masters of the Zhao and Li family still be alive? Don't forget, a few days ago, eldest young miss of the Gu residence and Princess Xia Zhu's battle pet, Princess Xia Zhu's battle pet crushed the Zhao and Li family's people to death. The Zhao and Li family are suppressing their hatred. Sigh, regarding this matter, we can only blame eldest young miss of the Gu residence for being too arrogant. She's obviously a trash, but she still went around creating trouble. This is exactly the same as second young master Ren. The two of them are really a match made in heaven. The surrounding cultivators couldn't help but mumble when they saw this scene. Many people were still staring in the direction of the surging profound waves. Soon, the profound waves gradually dispersed. The indistinct silhouette caused everyone to freeze on the spot. In front of him, a black figure stood in front of the girl. A hand was placed on Zhao Quan and Li Zhongtian's arms. Both of their attacks were stopped. Immediately after, the black figure's body erupted with a thick xian wave. There were a few cracking sounds. The bones in their wrists were broken, and they were thrown out. When the crowd saw the black figure clearly, they were shocked. Someone exclaimed, It's the secret guards of the Gu residence. Yes. Standing in front of Yi Qing Luo, blocking all the attacks, was Gu Yi. His expression was solemn as he stood there, emitting a powerful profound glow from his entire body, protecting Yi Qing Luo behind his back. Zhao and Li Zhongtian's arms were broken, as they rolled on the ground in pain. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled into an extremely faint smile as she slowly walked out from Gu Yi's back. Everyone can see clearly that you were the ones who tried to kill me first. So, even if I kill you, if the Zhao and Li family pursue this matter, it would merely be my legitimate self-defense. Yi Qing Luo's expression changed slightly. Chapter 43-34. Li Zhongtian widened his eyes in horror. Eldest young miss, are you sure you want to offend so many people just for a waste who has been removed from the Ren family? Zhao Quan hurriedly continued, I think with eldest young miss's intelligence, you must understand that, all these are eldest young miss Ren's intention. If eldest young miss is willing to give in and save second young master Ren, eldest young miss Ren will definitely be grateful to you. His tone was both threatening and seductive. Yi Qing Luo heard that and her slender fingers hooked a lock of her hair as she gave a sarcastic smile. Really? What if I'm not willing? What does eldest young Miss Ren want to do to me? Zhao Quan's face instantly darkened. His voice was also filled with ruthlessness. Eldest young miss, the reason why we call you eldest young miss is because of the Gu residence. Now that Bone Lord is not in the heaven realm and the emperor is far away, if we really want to do anything to you, are you sure that just a few secret guards will be able to protect you? Yi Qing Luo tilted her head as she blinked her eyes, looking extremely cute. I'm also quite curious if they can protect me. Why not? Give it a try. Zhao Quan suddenly slammed the ground as he stood up from the ground. His facial features were all twisted into a ball. Eldest young miss is indeed a member of the Gu residence. This young master admires your boldness. Since eldest young miss wants to try, this young master will satisfy you. I'd like to know how many things Bone Lord gave you to protect your life. Li Zhongtian sneered as he clapped his hands. In an instant, about 30 guards dressed in martial attire appeared from all directions. In an instant, they blocked Yi Qing Luo and Ren Jianming in the middle. Yi Qing Luo cried out and poked Gu Yi's back. How is it, based on your ability, these people won't be a problem, right? Gu Yi didn't want to speak. What did this eldest young miss treat him as? Even if he was the former captain of the secret guards, his ability was the strongest among the secret guards. But that didn't mean that he was invulnerable, impervious to fire and water, right? The other party was obviously well prepared. Those people were definitely not ordinary people. Still no problem. He was ridiculing in his heart. But Gu Yi's face was still expressionless as he looked at Yi Qing Luo. I will risk my life to protect eldest young Mississippi, Tisk. There's no way to deal with it. Yi Qing Luo sighed as she shook her head with a look of pity. Bone 1, Zhao Quan and Li Chongtian naturally heard the conversation between the two of them. The two of them burst into laughter at the same time. Are you afraid now? Eldest miss, you should know that in the heaven realm, other than Bone Lord, you have no one to rely on. Offending young Miss Ren won't do you any good. If you know fear, if you go and plead with young Miss Ren, perhaps young Miss Ren will let you go. Really? Suddenly, a familiar voice sounded from outside the crowd. Soon, a group of people passed through the crowd and walked toward them. The onlookers, under the pressure of this group of people, unconsciously made way for them. Walking in the front was a man and a woman. Behind them were 10 men dressed in white, each of them tall and burly, imposing. Yiqing Luo's line of sight immediately fell onto that man and woman. The expression on her face revealed a J part shock and J part joy. Bam! A burst of profound waves surged. Those guards who were surrounding Yiqing Luo were all overturned by an invisible force. Chapter 43-35. Cooperative relationship, so she could move around freely in this Linglong palace? Yiqing Luo. The palace lord of Seclusion Palace gazed deeply at her face, as his voice sounded a little hoarse. The current him was no longer in Dmo Xian's appearance. That voice carried a layer of heavy, like a machine, as it blurred his original voice. It sounded extremely strange. What's the matter? Yiqing Luo asked coldly. I'm sorry. He sighed softly, as he apologized helplessly. I didn't know that because of me, it would cause you to fall into this impasse. Yiqing Luo scoffed lightly, as her eyes were filled with ridicule. Didn't know? Palace Lord of Seclusion Palace, what on earth are you trying to express? She tilted her head, as she gave a teasing smile. Could it be that the Palace Lord of Seclusion Palace really likes me? After scheming against me in secret, you ran over to explain in various ways. I don't know. I didn't do it on purpose. I really don't know anything. Palace Lord of Seclusion Palace, did I foolishly believe you, and feel that you're very innocent? The Palace Lord of Seclusion Palace suddenly raised his head, as the eyes under the black robe fell onto her. What did he want to say? But he didn't know how to explain. This matter, I really don't know anything. The words that I said to you are from my heart. The Palace Lord of Seclusion Palace finally said helplessly. Pausing for a moment, he lowered his head, as his voice became repressed. No matter if you believe me or not, I still want to explain to you clearly. But, this matter, although it wasn't my original intention, but the matter is indeed. Because of me, you were brought to Linglong Palace, indeed. It's my fault. I'm sorry. The Palace Lord of Seclusion Palace's eyes under the black robe shut tightly. He wasn't willing to look at that young lady's gaze, which was filled with ridicule. He really didn't expect this. How could things be so coincidental? So coincidental that everything seemed as though it had long been arranged. Even if he didn't say anything. Young Master Zhao and young Master Li also felt Ren Jianming's anger. The two shivered and glanced at Huangfu Sheng. We were really forced. Second young Master Ren, you know. We listened to you when we were with you. How could we dare to betray you? It's your big sister, your big sister. Zhao Quan suddenly raised his voice and suppressed Li Zhongtian's. It was Lady Ren who was worried about you. She hoped that you could return to the Ren family and live a good life as the future heir. That's why she came up with this plan. She wanted you to understand your status and your importance. They knew very well in their hearts. The first miss of the Gu clan had purposefully questioned them in front of everyone. He wanted to force the name of Miss Ren from their mouths. Even if they lied, it would only infuriate the Huangfu family. Chapter 43-37. It was just that he had beautified Miss Ren. This way, he was not lying. He could also protect Miss Ren's reputation. Zhao Quan felt that he was too smart. When Li Zhongtian heard this, he hurriedly nodded his head in agreement. When we received young Miss Ren's request, our hearts also did not approve of using such a method. However, you are after all our boss. Young Miss Ren is also doing this for the Ren family. We also cannot bear to see second young Master Ren abandon the entire Ren family for the young miss of the Gu residence, following Li Zhongtian's words. The surrounding crowd seemed to have thought of something. Instantly, the expressions on their faces became a little weird. That's right, Ren Jianming was the future successor of the Ren family, the genius second young master that the Ren family thought highly of. The Ren family had high hopes for him. But now, because of his admiration for Miss Gu, he completely disregarded the Ren family. He did not even listen to his own elder sister's words. One must know, although Miss Gu had a very noble status, the entire heaven realm was talking about it. Bone Lord would marry the first young mistress to whoever emerged as the champion on the honor list. But, after all, the first miss of the Gu residence was trash. A girl with no Xian strength and only knew some low-level tricks. So what if she had a noble status? If any family member married Miss Gu in order to get close to Bone Lord, this girl was not only unable to help the family with their business, they could not take in concubines or do anything that would let Miss Gu down, because there was still Bone Lord above them. Marrying Miss Gu, that was equivalent to marrying a flower vase. And a flower vase ancestor that could not be offended. So, the moment Miss Gu's identity was spread out, every single unmarried man was extremely excited. After knowing that Miss Gu was trash with no Xian strength, they were extremely disappointed. It was no wonder the eldest daughter of the Ren family would stop this marriage alliance. But, second young master Ren was obviously already determined to marry Miss Gu. He would rather leave the Ren family to be together with Miss Gu. No wonder Miss Ren would think of such a method to force second young master Ren to return home. Especially, seeing the recently popular young master of the Huangfu family being so close to Miss Gu, he wondered what the relationship between the two of them was. From the looks of it, even young master Huangfu's fiancée had accepted the existence of the young miss of the Bone clan. Could it be that they had already discussed to share a husband? Facing the scrutinizing gazes of the crowd, Yiqing Luo didn't have too many emotions. She slowly straightened her body, her long and narrow eyes raised, carrying a hint of a smile, looking at the Zhao and Li family young masters. So that's how it is. Ren Jianming let his big sister down. Yiqing Luo seemed as though she was convinced as she repeated these words. When Zhao Quan heard that, his eyes lit up as he looked at Yiqing Luo agitatedly and nodded his head vigorously. Yes. It's like this. Young Mistress Ren is also racking her brains to think of second young Master Ren. Enough, Zhao Quan. Don't say any more. Jianming, he won't listen. Suddenly, a voice filled with pain and helplessness came from the crowd. His voice was a little hoarse. The moment he heard the voice, Ren Jianming's body suddenly tensed up. The onlookers cried out in surprise and quickly moved to make way for them. Chapter 43-38. The lady was dressed in a plain green long dress, outlining her exquisite waist. She stopped straightening her back. The expression on her face was the disappointment, helplessness, and pain of an elder. Her imposing manner had the delicateness of a lady. It also had the vigor and prestige of a superior. Solemn and dignified. Just one look and everyone was able to recognize the lady's identity. Eldest young Miss Ren is here. Eldest young Miss Ren. For this useless brother, you've really put in a lot of effort. It's said that femme fatale, eldest young miss of the Gu residence is also that fatale. We're both eldest young miss, but why is there such a huge difference? Shoo, don't say any more. Not only does she have Bone Lord backing her up, she also has the Huangfu family. If this gets to eldest young miss of the Gu residence's ears, you won't be able to bear the consequences. The surrounding discussions made Yiqing Luo speechless. They spoke so loudly. They totally had no intention to avoid her. She could hear them clearly without the need for others to pass it on, all right? Facing this bunch of retards, Yiqing Luo didn't even have the desire to bother about them. She lazily lifted her eyelids and squinted at Ren Jianming as her lips curled into a smile as she spoke in a lukewarm tone. Yo, isn't this eldest young Miss Ren? Ren Jianming's expression was solemn and cold as her gaze stopped on Yiqing Luo for several breaths before she placed all her attention on Ren Jianming. That exquisite and beautiful, yet dignified face instantly turned gentle. She sighed. Jianming, are you done messing around? Her tone was just the right amount of helplessness. She had controlled her emotions extremely well. But Yi Qing Luo acutely discovered that when the lady turned her head and looked towards Ren Jianming, under her long hair, a portion of her fair neck was faintly revealed. On top, the mottled ambiguous traces were very obvious. Yi Qing Luo clicked her tongue. This Ren Jianming was really incredible. She had just planned how to openly snatch back her brother's authority and arranged for people to seek revenge for her brother. And the moment she turned her head, she became entangled with her lover. She was indeed an ambitious lady. Her heart was rather big. Hearing Ren Jianming's words, Ren Jianming's face turned green and white as he stared at her with a venomous gaze. His hands were clenched into fists by his side. He seemed to be suppressing some sort of emotion. Ren Jianming didn't seem to notice. Putting on the airs of an elder, he advised earnestly, "Jianming, I know what you're thinking. I also want to give you what you want, however, you are the pride of the Ren family, the hope of the Ren family. What you carry is the Ren family's everything. You can't be so willful. Jianming, I know that using this method to force you has hurt you, but I'm doing this for your own good." As she spoke, she sighed and slowly walked towards Ren Jianming. Ren Jianming narrowed his eyes. The moment Ren Jianming walked over, he took a sudden step back. He staggered and almost fell to the ground. Fortunately, Huang Fuxing helped him in time. Ren Jianming steadied himself and glared at Ren Jianming. There was indescribable hatred in his eyes. "You, get lost." He spat out 2 words with great difficulty. His voice was tense and trembling, and his body was also trembling slightly. Ren Jianming furrowed her brows and her expression turned grim. "What's wrong with you? Are you not feeling well?" Chapter 43-39. We wouldn't dare. Zhao Quan and Li Chongtian's faces turned pale instantly. He threw himself onto the ground and kowtowed hard. When second young master Ren appeared, he was covered in injuries. Everyone can testify. Ren Jianming pursed her red lips tightly. Her brows were sharp, covered in injuries. Who dares to touch our Ren family successor? Zhao Quan and Li Chongtian knelt on the ground trembling and shook their heads desperately. Finally, Ren Jianming turned her gaze back to Ren Jianming. "Look at you. You just left the Ren family and you're already in such a state. Isn't it good to stay in the Ren family and be the Ren family's second young master?" What should I say to you?" Her face was filled with helplessness and heartache. After that, she sighed heavily. "Who is the one who hurt you? Tell me, I will make the other party pay a painful price." Every word, and every action, all showed how much she valued and cared for Ren Jianming. Her words were like sharp steel needles stabbing into Ren Jianming's heart one by one. Yi Qing Luo laughed as she watched. She had to admit that Ren Jianming's acting was really good. If it was in her previous era, he must also be a shadow follower level character. "Ah, Luo?" Huang Fuxing looked at the Ren siblings and looked at Yi Qing Luo in puzzlement. Huang Fuxing had naturally heard about the relationship between Yi Qing Luo and Ren Jianming. After all, the news of Ren Jianming's pestering towards the eldest miss of the Gu residence had spread throughout the old city. After seeing that the eldest miss of the Gu residence was Yi Qing Luo, of course he wouldn't suspect that there was any special relationship between Yi Qing Luo and Ren Jianming. Luo's future husband was the high and mighty overlord. Tens of thousands of Ren Jianming were no match for the overlord. But he was still very curious. Why would Yi Qing Luo be acquainted with this Ren family's second young master who didn't have a good reputation? Don't you feel that eldest Miss Ren's acting is not bad? Yi Qing Luo laughed lightly. Her long and narrow eyes were filled with ridicule. She didn't intentionally lower her voice when she spoke. Naturally, the people around them heard it loud and clear. Ren Jianming's face froze for a moment. She raised her head and her gaze was slightly cold as she looked at Yi Qing Luo, eldest young miss of the Gu residence. "I don't know for what reason did you force Jianming to quarrel with his biological sister, even to the point of running away from home, but Jianming is my younger brother, the future successor of the Ren family. I will absolutely not allow you to destroy my younger brother, and destroy the Ren family. Her words of righteousness. Not only did she create the image of a good sister for herself. He even threw a pot onto Yiqing Luo. This caused everyone to unconsciously think that Ren Jianming's change, could it really be because of the first miss of the Gu clan? The first miss of the Gu residence was acquainted with the young master of the Huangfu clan. Suddenly, his mind was filled with a series of conspiracy theories. Big sister. Ren Jianming's tense and suppressed voice sounded like a beast that had been trapped for a long time. His voice was very hoarse. His fists were tightly clenched, as his eyes were filled with disappointment and helplessness. Don't push everything onto Eldest Mississippi. Why did I become like this? You know it best, don't you? Jianming, even now, you still want to speak up for her? Ren Jianming looked extremely angry. Chapter 43-40. She sighed as she walked towards Ren Jianming and her tone was extremely gentle. Jianming, stop fooling around. Go home with big sister obediently. If you really like eldest young miss of the Gu residence, then show me your love for her. Prove it to big sister can compromise for you. Seeing Ren Jianming walking over. Ren Jianming's footsteps subconsciously retreated towards Yiqing Luo's side. Ren Jianming's footsteps halted as her face was filled with helplessness. In everyone's eyes. Ren Jianming was a strange lady who was worried for her good-for-nothing brother and broke her heart for the Ren family. All of them felt heartache for her and felt that it wasn't worth it. While Ren Jianming was retreating, his eyes were fixed on Ren Jianming. He didn't notice the wooden barrel which had unknowingly rolled to the side of his feet. Bam! His calf was hit by the wooden barrel. Ren Jianming's body was unstable as he fell heavily onto the ground. This fall was so painful that his face turned pale as he sucked in a cold breath. Jianming. Ren Jianming cried out in shock as there wasn't any trace of a strong woman's dignity on her face. It was filled with a sister's concern towards her brother. She quickly rushed to Ren Jianming's side as she squatted down and helped him up. Her worried gaze looked at Ren Jianming from head to toe. Jianming, are you hurt from the fall? Where do you feel uncomfortable? Go home with big sister. Go home with big sister will not let anything happen to you. Saying that, she hooked Ren Jianming's body as she tried to help him up. This movement made Ren Jianming feel as though his body was about to be torn apart. He waved his hand and pushed Ren Jianming away as he gritted his teeth angrily. I don't need your fake kindness. This push of his didn't push onto Ren Jianming. Instead, it was held by Ren Jianming's hand. She held onto his arm just like that. The gaze which she used to look at Ren Jianming was filled with solemnity and seriousness. The atmosphere, at this moment, became heavy. The air seemed to have condensed into frost. The surrounding people also stopped their discussions because of the change in the atmosphere. Just like that, there was a moment of silence. A lady's slightly trembling voice was heard, as though she was suppressing some emotions. Jianming, you. Is your body all right? The woman asked very cautiously. Every single word that came out of her mouth was extremely difficult. Ren Jianming's body tensed up as he stared at Ren Jianming. However, Ren Jianming acted as if she did not see his gaze. She continued to speak with a trembling voice. Jianming, don't tell me that in order for the young miss of the Gu clan to accept you, you turned yourself into an ordinary person? What about your profound strength? What about your profound rank? Why can't I sense any profound chi fluctuations from your body? Her question sounded as if she was deeply grieved. However, every single word was clearly transmitted into the ears of the surrounding spectators. Instantly, there was an uproar. The genius second young master of the Ren family had lost his profound strength? A cultivation genius that was rarely seen in 100 years had actually become a good-for-nothing? Just because he wanted to be together with the young miss of the Gu residence, he had turned himself into a piece of trash. Profound energy. Strength, to them, was the most important. How could such a powerful talent be wasted like this? If it was them. To have a talent like the second young master of the Wren family. They would rather become monks than to give up on this kind of talent. Chapter 43-41. Just now, when the Zhao and Li family's young masters threw the barrels at second young master Wren had no way to avoid them. They were still wondering just now. Second young master Wren was so strong. Looking at the entire old city and even the heavenly realm. No one should be able to leave such a wretched and severe injury on the body of the second young master of the Wren clan. Wait, suddenly, a voice sounded in the crowd. Second young master Wren is the heir of the Wren family. If he loses his dark force, doesn't it mean that he has lost the right to inherit the Wren family? The four great families will never let a useless person become the family head. Yes. Second young master Wren can't inherit the position of the Wren family head if he loses his dark force. The Wren family has few descendants. Now, they only have Miss Wren and a 5-year-old young master left. If second young master Wren loses his right to inherit the family, does that mean the Wren family has to be handed over to a 5-year-old child? Second young master Wren is too impulsive. He doesn't know how to think about his family at all. For a moment, everyone was talking about it. Their tone was full of disapproval for Ren Jianming. If this kind of thing happened in their family, they would probably vomit blood from anger. Ren Jianming seemed to be frightened and couldn't recover for a long time. She just stared at Ren Jianming without blinking. She didn't refute the words of the surrounding people. Until the discussion rose to a peak. Only then did Ren Jianming stand up as if she had lost her soul. She stared at Ren Jianming and said bitterly, "Good. Very good. This is your choice. You used this method to take revenge on the Wren family." She turned her back and raised her head slightly. The side profile of that beautiful face was very exquisite. Ren Jianming seemed to be extremely sad. She didn't even want to look at Ren Jianming. Clap, clap, clap. Amidst this chaotic atmosphere, a clap rang out. Everyone was instantly attracted by the sound of the applause. They saw the girl in red, who had been standing aside and watching the show for a long time, applauding and walking out. Her steps were very elegant, and the corner of her mouth was curled up with a faint sarcastic smile. That pair of long, narrow, and slightly upturned eyes exuded a chilly coldness when they looked at them. Everyone's discussion came to an abrupt halt. Ren Jianming's expression sunk as her beautiful eyes looked towards Yiqing Luo. "Are you satisfied now? My brother became like this because of you. You must be very proud, right?" The girl stopped clapping and crossed her arms. Step by step, he strolled over to her. He walked to Ren Jianming's side. Ren Jianming's body tensed up and she gathered her dark force vigilantly. But unexpectedly, Yiqing Luo didn't even bother to take a look at her as she walked past her and walked towards the crowd. Ren Jianming stood rooted to the ground like a fool. His right hand, which was gathering dark force, hung stiffly in midair. The expression on his face was sometimes twisted, and sometimes hideous. "You, come out." Yiqing Luo stood in front of the crowd, pointing towards a certain direction. Everyone saw the girl walking towards them. For some reason, he felt an indescribable pressure in his heart. It was obvious that the young girl in front of him did not have the slightest fluctuation of profound energy. But when he looked into the other's eyes, he felt a chill run down his spine. He couldn't stop the emotions from spreading in his heart. Finally, when the young girl's finger landed on a certain spot, everyone's suspenseful hearts then slowly calmed down. You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.